This is editor Roberto, which is why my mic sounds different. Uh, Truman's audio in this, well, Truman records through GarageBand, or well, he did for that episode. He doesn't normally. He and because he doesn't record normally, he left the metronome on in GarageBand, so his entire track just has a metronome going. There's an easy way to fix it, and I know the easy way. Well, it's okay. I'll take that back. It's not easy. It's annoying. It's annoying to do, and I'm trying to figure out a way to do it, and I'm trying to like do it, but I just I'm lazy. Well, okay. Basically, you have to take the metronome noise, and then you have to like copy it for the entire podcast, and then you have to inverse it because that's how sound works. So like it'll make the inverse wave, and the waves collide and they cancel out, but you'll still have his voice, which it'll work, and you can do that, and it's like that part is the easy part to do, like inversing it, right? But lining taking it like this is easy to do in a music program, and probably easy to do in Premiere, but I don't have Premiere, so um you have to you like getting a clean cut of the metronome, and then making it like line up with the metronome in Truman's audio consistently throughout the entire podcast, which is an hour and 20 minutes long, is nearly impossible. Like I'm already like even by like the second time, because I have to take a segment and then loop it, right? So even by the second time that I loop it, it's already starting to get off. And I've spent like a couple hours working on this, and I don't. It's probably a me thing being stupid. It's like that's probably what it is. But at this point, like I just don't really want to give it any more of my time, because like I don't know. It not it doesn't really matter. Like it's annoying and I hate it, and it is, but like no one really listens to our podcast anyway, which sucks because this is actually one of the like probably one of our best episodes, and it has a metronome on it. Maybe one day I'll come back and I'll get rid of the metronome whenever I'm a smarter human being, but right now I'm not. So, um enjoy the episode.
Cool. Um, Welcome to the Film Student Study Guide. I believe this is episode 16. It could also be 15. I'm pretty sure it's 16. I'm Roberto Mako Stens. This is my co-host Truman Matheny, as always.
That's correct.
It is correct. And today we are going over the movie Under the Skin from 2013, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. We faked everybody out. We said we were doing the one takers.
Yeah.
We came out of left field with this one.
We really
we
did.
had some technical issues.
Oh boy, did we. Do you have anything to start us off, or do you just want to go right into it?
Opening banter.
Opening banter?
Did you want to discuss anything? I thought there was something about either of the scripts that I'm currently working on that you wanted to talk about on air, possibly.
Was
but
there?
if I'm wrong,
I don't remember
so.
saying something like that in specific.
Oh, well, you commented on my Instagram when I posted about the payroll script.
Oh, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
So,
of course, I don't want to get into too many plot details or concept details, but
oh no,
we can talk about it
Yeah.
because I assume you wanted to say something based on that comment.
What did I send you?
You just commented, this sounds totally like a not Truman movie,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I'm excited for it, or
So,
something like that.
Yeah. I pulled it up right here. So, I think the photo is perfect. The photo is amazing.
Well, Well, that was the thing, is Carter just sent me that photo.
Just like
And
out of the
he
blue
wanted to
with no
make-
explanation.
Yeah, well, I mean, Carter and I just send each other a whole bunch of crap all the time. And anyway, like, we both come to each other with pretty ridiculous ideas regularly.
Yeah.
But he pitched me on a short film, and he was like, all right, idea, short film, like, colon, and then he sent that picture of two guys with guns on a boat.
Okay.
And he said, I really like this vibe. I want to make it a short film.
Gotcha. So let me describe the photo. So
Okay.
it's the water is like a Bahamas sort of color, so it's like greenish but like pretty blue and like very clear looking. So it looks like we're in somewhere in like the tropics.
Yeah.
It looks to be like a fancy speedboat.
Yeah.
It's just like of the back of it, so like where the engine would be, and the engine cowls, I guess, or the vents, they're sort of like chromed, I would say, or they just have like a gradient of color on them.
This may be too much information.
No,
It's a nice speedboat.
It's the vibe. It's the vibe of the boat. It's also like a sky blue boat. It's definitely like a like fancy racing speedboat type of thing, right? On top of the engine, there is a dude in what looks like light blue jeans, or just work pants and a jean jacket, which probably has some patches on the front. So a black dude with an afro, and he has an M16, right? And then
Didn't Indigo comment on exactly what guns those two guns were?
Oh, I mean, yeah. But I knew that. He did comment that. But yeah, the other dude, he's wearing a white shirt. He has like the chest holster thing where you have like a pistol like under your arm. He has like one of those like bandolier things, which I find very funny. So it looks like there's a 1911 in there. And then he has a AUG. Looks like a long barrel AUG. So this and he has slick backed hair and he has shades.
Yeah.
And they're just they're looking in the same direction, and their rifles are pointing in the same direction. And this photo like screams like 70s 80s like pulp action.
Carter and I decided to go late 80s because we just really wanted to have that ridiculous phone from American Psycho in it. So we're gonna have that phone in it, so it's gonna be late 80s. And he really wants the car phone in it, so I'm currently writing the scene where they're in the car and they're talking on a car phone. But anyway, so he sent me that picture, right? And I had just finished the script for Laundry Day, or at least the third draft, which I'm also working on the fourth draft right now. And anyway, I was kind of getting annoyed with... Well, I was just ready for a challenge because I still don't feel like I fully understand, the structure of a feature-length film.
Yes.
And so I've been kind of trying to find ways around actually knowing structure and still making, a good film.
Yeah.
And I felt that it would be really helpful to me overall to try and write a full feature that is like a traditional 3-act structure film, right? And then we could sell it, because Carter and I both really want to sell a screenplay before we graduate from college.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. Anyway, we pitched each other on that, and we've been working out this idea that's based around that photo, and we're gonna make a pretty classic, 80s, 90s action movie type thing that's set in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're excited. We're going for it. Yeah.
I am very excited because this is a very un-Truman film going just like plot structure is not something that I would associate with Truman. So I mean, I completely understand why you want to go for it, and I think it's really smart that you're trying to do what you think you're bad at. I think that that's a really good thing to do, especially because if you keep trying to subvert like the classic 3-act structure, it's probably helpful to like know what the classic 3-act structure is so that you can subvert it better. I also just really like that photo. And even then,
I don't think I'm that adamant against plot structure, really. My short films typically follow a relatively strong short film plot structure. It's not like I'm anti-plot. I do really like plot. It's just I really like subverting anything I can subvert. And I hadn't found anything that I wanted to subvert for a full feature narrative-wise until Laundry Day, which even then I don't know that it's a subversion. It's more just my screw you to the idea that VO is lazy. Which I'll say that much. But I don't truly want to give away too much more. Anyway, yeah, so I did want to learn plot structure better, and I do love 80s and 90s action movies, and I think action movies would be much better if we tried to do more of that, like, we don't care about whether or not this is at all real. We're just making something fun and enjoyable, So all, like, the mob bosses are pretty typical, stereotype kind of guys, The chief of police is like, y'all are the best guys I have, but I hate you, or whatever.
Well, it's not the chief of police. It has to be like the commissioner, and then the chief of police is yelling at the commissioner, or like no. The commissioner is like, the mayor's up my ass on this one, or whatever. Like, that's a classic one.
I mean, I was just gonna say chief, and then if anybody had a problem with that, then they're not thinking as far as 80s and 90s action movies were thinking. So it's not what I'm thinking about. I have done more research than I thought I would do with this one.
Yeah? What have you watched?
No. Like script research. I had to figure out if robbers wore ski masks in the late 80s, which was difficult, and my findings were probably. And I asked my dad, because the characters, at least in the part that I'm talking about, that I was working on, the characters reference Miami Vice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to ask my dad, who watched Miami Vice, if they did that last week on Miami Vice thing, and he said yes. I also looked up graphic design to see if people who were graphic designers called themselves graphic designers in the 70s. That one was a dead end. Couldn't find out that information. Hopefully someone can tell me. And yeah, I also looked up barbed wire. I don't know if I said that yet.
No,
to see when barbed wire was invented.
Oh, but World War One.
Yeah, that one I found out that I did not need to worry about whether or not, like, drug guys would have barbed wire on their fences.
Yeah. Barbed wire has existed for a long time.
Yeah, so they did have barbed wire on their fences, just to let everybody know.
You know, if we had seen 1917, you would have gotten your answer.
I would have gotten all my answers. Okay, awesome.
For the barbed wire one, yeah.
I will say one problem that I'm thinking about right now is, you know, there's that whole idea of you're not supposed to direct from the page, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I had a very stylized opening credits sequence in mind. And I don't think it's terrible, the level of directing from the page I have. Like, it's not like I said close-up or, like, specific shots. I just talked about, like, it's slow motion and regular motion, you know, all of that jazz. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, hopefully that's okay, but who knows? Maybe if I send it out to a Hollywood exec, they're going to be like, Yo, this guy, he's trying to direct from the page. I hate him, you know? I'm going to throw away this script immediately.
I mean, what you could do is you could just keep a copy yourself of where you do direct from the page, and then you keep a copy where you don't. Because, like, I've seen like, scripts for, like, The Hunt for Red October and whatnot, and there's all sorts of camera directions on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but, like, I don't know how much of that is, like,
too bad.
added there. Or how much is, like, added afterwards and whatnot.
Well, why would you add camera shots to a script when you're already going to storyboard or shot list it, you know?
Just so it's, like, there on one page. You don't have to flip through, like, 8 things. I don't know.
I don't think that makes sense to me.
But
yeah, I probably should read a couple more scripts to see if, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if
like,
you're actually trying to sell it. Yeah.
Yeah, what level is too much directing from the page. And yeah, it's really just that one scene that I want to direct from the page. And, like, I wish I could just accurately describe everything about that one little opening credit sequence, but, you know, I'm not gonna do that, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard because, like, the few times that I've, like, sat down and, like, written stuff, there you go.
Yeah.
Like, whenever you're writing things, you're seeing what you're trying to write in your head, so it's hard to not to, like, copy that down or write that down without, like, giving how you're seeing it, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know if I really feel the same way. But at the same time, you know, it's very different writing for yourself versus writing with the intent to give it away.
Yeah.
You know? It's a very different process that I'm, you know, only beginning, right? Mm-hmm. So part of that is, even though I'm currently still writing on Celtex, I know that I have to get Final Draft Pro if I want to sell this script, you know? Mm-hmm. No one's going to read a Celtex script in the actual industry, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. And then also, you know, sometimes I do leave a couple, like, notes to myself when I'm going to direct the script myself,
yeah.
You know? But, you know, it's not too hard to let any of that go because, you know, I don't care if the director has a hard time, you know, figuring out how he wants to shoot the script or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not my job as the screenwriter, if that makes sense. Like, I don't mean that in a callous way. I do want my script to be easily, directable,
Uh-huh.
but I don't care about making little notes to myself to make sure that I remember this one thing that I had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're not going to direct it. You're just going to write it.
Right. It's too high budget a film. I couldn't direct anything with guns.
Yeah. Like airsoft guns are just like, ugh.
Yeah,
Like,
I've been talking to people about like budgets and stuff, and I keep having to just be like, I am sorry, I'm not Robert Rodriguez, who can fund his film with $7,000 that he made from becoming a lab rat, and then make a crazy action movie.
Why not?
Like, I mean, technically I could. Technically I could. There's nothing that like is preventing me, but do I want to? Not a chance, man. I want a lighting department. I don't want to be the lighting department. I don't know enough about lighting.
Well, see, that's where Rodriguez came in.
Robert Rodriguez.
Robert Rodriguez. And he's like, yeah, that's where he learned it.
On El Mariachi specifically?
Yeah. Well,
I can't imagine that he didn't know anything about lights and then directed a feature.
No. Not that he didn't know anything about lights. He like learned about lights and then did it. Like he taught himself everything and then did it.
Yeah, but like he had been making films since he was like 4 or something like that. Like he got a video camera real early, and he had been making films like since he was like 4 or so, right?
I don't know. I was gonna read the book, and then Half Price Books closed the day that I went into quarantine. So
I am currently reading the book.
Mm.
So yeah, it's always a punch in the face whenever I open up that book and he's like, I didn't need anybody. And I'm like, all right, man, I'm sorry that we're not all superhumans, I'm sorry that I don't have a built-in light meter on my finger, dude. I'm out here trying my best, and I think the best way to do that is to get people who are experts on cameras to shoot it, and not just me, who knows a pretty good amount about cameras.
Yeah. I mean, there's you can advocate for both ways.
Robert Rodriguez is certainly an inspiration, but at the same time, it's sometimes obnoxious to read these superhuman feats he was able to accomplish that I just have no interest in taking on.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. You can do it.
We could strike that from the record if you want. We could do that. It's impossible. Robert Rodriguez did the impossible.
Robert Rodriguez is a film superhuman. He can do what others
an
can't.
Alien. He's just an alien. Truthfully, I don't know if you know this. This is a fun fact about El Mariachi. Robert Rodriguez was actually also a robotics engineer.
Oh,
so
no,
he
really?
he built a robot to be his cinematographer, and he built a robot to be his sound guy.
What the fuck?
I don't know if you know that. Yeah.
How?
Because it's not true. Roberto, what?
What?
Did you just believe that Robert Rodriguez built a cameraman robot?
Okay, we're gonna have to move on here. Do you got another segment?
All right, let's get into Under the Skin. You had a pretty interesting immediate reaction. I tried to ask you more about it, but you couldn't explain yourself through text.
Yeah.
What'd you say to me over text, and then explain yourself?
It feels like a movie that you like picked for me to watch, like knowing like movies that I would like, or knowing movies that I would find interesting. You're like, oh, let's watch this. I'm sure that Roberto would have like an interesting reaction to it, or would like it, or whatever.
I don't know. I just picked a movie that I thought would be a good discussion piece.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, I really, when I am solely responsible for the picking, I just pick whatever I think is a good discussion movie. You know, there's no other reason. Because, like, part of me does want to talk about Clerks on this podcast, but it'll be like a 10-second episode, you know? It really isn't that much of a discussion piece because everything they said about Clerks has already been said, you know?
I mean,
I did have opening banter. We can talk about it in the closing.
Okay.
I watched Schindler's List last night.
Oh, okay. Did you watch it with your dad or your family?
Yeah, I watched it with the whole family, which I'm very glad.
Family classic.
I'm glad we did it as a family thing. No, like, it's the right kind of movie to watch with your family, you know, especially as a Jewish family. Like,
yeah,
it's good to have it as, like, a whole family experience. But at the same time, I don't know. I had problems with that film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had problems with it. I thought it was too long.
Well, I haven't seen it,
like,
so...
Well, it's... I won't spoil, like, anything for you.
I mean, I know sort of, like, the basic plot points.
Yeah, and even then, is it really spoiling something for you if it's history?
It's also, like, from the 90s, right?
Right. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's a 3-hour film, and the first, 2 hours or so have very little to do with, what I watched this movie for, I wanted to watch the, very important, Holocaust film that it's made out to be,
What's the first 2 hours? I'm just gonna go out on a limb and guess that it's probably just like them doing family things or being just like living their life, and then like the last hour is them getting screwed over or whatnot.
Well, so like, most Holocaust films really, focus on the hardships of the Jews, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the value in them, right? They're that kind of like historical, portrayal, as it were. I don't know how to describe the importance of a Holocaust film. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to describe why someone would want to watch one. You know what I mean? Like, when you think about it psychologically.
Yeah.
But as far as they go, they all have a specific purpose and a specific thing they are, emotional value they are supposed to achieve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I've seen plenty of Holocaust films because I am, a good Jew. I do my, work. I've been to multiple Holocaust museums and all of that. And it's certainly developed, in my opinion, that once you've seen one Holocaust museum, you've really seen them all. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I've been to the best ones. I've been to some of the, smaller ones. And really, I had been to like one or two smaller ones before I went to Yad Vashem, which is the big one in Israel, right? But yeah, like Yad Vashem was heartbreaking for sure, and it had a lot of information that I didn't know, and a lot of like real pieces of, you know, important things that I hadn't seen before. So like they had like legitimate children's books about you know, like how you should never trust a Jew or whatever. And things like that. Yeah, it's all heartbreaking for sure. But anyway, I don't know if I feel the same way about Holocaust movies, but it's certainly similar. And so I do have to compare, because like Schindler's List is supposed to be like the Holocaust movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got that much reputation that like it's the most powerful Holocaust film. And those first 2 hours just seemed like so much wasted time, because we're already, you know, we already meet the character of Oskar Schindler in the first maybe 20 minutes or so, and he's pretty fully fleshed out, you know what I mean, as far as like the starting place for a character that's going to have a character arc, right? And so then they go through those next, you know, this next hour and 30 minutes or so after we've met Schindler, and we discuss, you know, like the beginnings, and we're seeing, you know, how the Jews are moving into ghettos and things like that. And it just seems like they went so slow on the progression to getting to the real meat of what they, you know, what I was expecting, you know, the concentration camps, right? And we were so focused on Oskar Schindler, who at that time was just a Nazi businessman. You know what I mean? And so, of course, he has that character arc, right? I'm not trying to say anything against Oskar Schindler at all by any means, but, you know, in the film, he starts out not as this lifesaver, right? Which I do think it is important to have that character arc, but I think it just moves so slowly for those first 2 hours, right? And then that last hour is the hour that packs the punch. That's what, you know, a great Holocaust movie is made of. Everything that takes place in that last hour, whereas, you know, the whole first hour is very, you know, is the beginnings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just feel like, as far as dedicating your time, right, in a film, if we're talking about the Holocaust, your, you know, 2 hours of your film should not be about the ghettos. You know what I mean? If you're making a 3-hour film, it shouldn't be 2 hours of ghetto, 1 hour of concentration camp. You know, you shouldn't gloss over the ghettos. You shouldn't gloss over all the things that build up to the concentration camps. But, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it just feels like
seemed
imbalanced to you.
Yeah, it felt very imbalanced, and, you know, it was all, and I mean, I'm sure, you know, I've seen films that have came out after Schindler's List, you know what I mean, that are Holocaust films, so, you know, it might be, you know, wrong of me to compare it to all my other film experience, right? But I've seen the ghettos. I've seen all the, you know, Gestapo rolling through and all of that jazz. You know what I mean? It's problematic. It's scary. It's awful. But it's not what really, really hurts when you're talking about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I guess I just had a problem, and then I also did not like the choice of the girl in the red coat, which I assume have you seen the girl in the red coat?
No.
Well, the whole movie's in black and
the,
white.
Okay, so it's not the boy in the striped pajamas, which is a very similar title.
No.
Okay, cool.
The whole Schindler's List is in black and white.
Did not know that.
And then, I mean, there are the beginning.
And I'm guessing
and
at the end her coat is red or something.
No.
Okay.
There's no color in the film except during the beginning and the end. Just that are also some other stuff and all of that, right? The beginning's in color, the closing's in color, and he's trying to discuss about like the light of the Jews dying out, right? And the light of the Jews coming back, right? Which is a really, really awesome way to go about it. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But then he betrays that by having one little girl in a red coat, right? And we never even know this little girl's name. You know what I mean? In the film, we just see her, first walking through as the Gestapo is rolling through, and they're all, taking people out of their houses. And then we see her as she's dead, right? And so I thought that was really lazy that, he's not going to give her a name. He's not going to give her a story. We see her face just a little bit once. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Why would you just give her a red...
Having not seen this movie.
You're probably unqualified to, speak on it, but
yes.
Yeah, share your thoughts.
But I feel like you might be missing something here. And if like the whole light thing is like the light of the Jews dying out and then coming back, and then like, I don't know. I feel if they don't give the girl a name and they don't really show her face and just sort of like her only personification is like a red coat, like you could, I mean, it's clearly that she's supposed to be an allegory for something else, or like for, I don't know, whatever. I don't know the context of how she's shown.
It seems like the way I saw it was that she's an element of sympathy, right? And if you're trying to elicit that sympathy and the emotional impact, I think the better way to go about it is by showing a character that's going through this, right? Whereas when they do have, characters that we're at least somewhat familiar with, you know what I mean, going through these awful things, right? It's much more impactful than just the one girl who has a colorful coat in a black and white movie. You know what I mean? And I don't know, I really had a problem with him, doing that when... Yeah, I don't know. I think I explained myself.
No,
well.
Yeah, I get your point, and I get what you're coming from. I would have to see the movie to understand it better.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, on Netflix.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
I might watch that. I don't want to watch that during quarantine while I'm already like, I mean, not sad. I don't know. I might.
There's never a right time to watch a Holocaust movie, but you gotta do it. Yep.
Yes, that's how I would put it. Well, do you have anything else that you would want to say?
No, we should probably get to Under the Skin.
Gotcha.
We don't need to talk about Schindler's List much longer. I'm sorry I put a damper on the podcast with bringing up the Holocaust, I guess.
I don't think it matters to like the overall like shape of the podcast. I don't know. So yeah,
you were saying that I picked this movie. We were saying that I picked this movie as a discussion piece. Right, yeah. And you were saying why you were either unsurprised or surprised of why I picked Under the Skin.
No, it just seems like a movie that like that someone would be like, oh, you'd probably find this film interesting, and then like watch it. I don't know.
Part of this, I will say, from a little glimpse into my narcissism.
Okay.
Part of this podcast certainly is me just wanting you to watch the movies I like.
I mean,
and me just wanting you to watch more movies because you don't watch many movies.
That is an entire reason of why I am making this podcast, so I have an excuse to watch movies.
Yeah. So we're a pretty good team. You picked the right man, because I think I know more than everybody else about films.
100%. Like, of people our age, you might be the person who knows the most movies, I think.
That's okay. So I was assuming that at SCAD, right? Everyone would be as pretentious as I am, if not more. And honestly, before I went to SCAD, part of the thing that I did is I did start watching more pretentious movies so that I wouldn't go into SCAD where people are talking. Yeah, where people are talking about the French New Wave and all these other things, right? And I had only, fell asleep in Breathless or whatever. You know what I mean? So I did start studying a little extra hard on all of the, important films and all that jazz, because I didn't want someone to,
call you out. You
throw
don't
me,
want to look like an
throw
idiot,
me into a conversation, and then I look like a complete idiot.
Yeah.
Turns out, film majors just really like the Academy Award-winning films, and they just want to talk about how, whichever A24 film or whichever other films are nominated, what they think about them.
Oh, which I think is bullshit.
Well, I mean, it's just, I had overheard maybe 20 different conversations about Joker.
And
like,
they're all the
you
same?
have no idea. Yeah, I mean, they definitely were all the same. And at the same time, few people were bringing up Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, right?
Yeah, which,
Like,
having never seen Joker, having never seen Taxi Driver, and having maybe, read, one thing about Joker, I already know that the Joker is, just a take of Taxi Driver. I already know that.
Right, which also I talked to Gallagher about it, and he had a lot more to say about how it's exactly Taxi Driver, and I appreciated that. But yeah, and so I got to thinking, about a lot of it, and I was like, man, I'm an idiot, because now I'm just the most pretentious guy, and no one wants to talk to me about movies, because then I'll come around and try and out-pretentious them. And I have gotten into a few talks with some people. One guy I talked to was just an early adopter of the Criterion Channel. And he was like, well, what do you think about the Czech New Wave? I was like, sorry, buddy. Sorry. You have fun, bud. You have a good time there. And then one other guy, I was so happy that I could not have a discussion with this guy. He was bringing up Boris Karloff and Vincent Price movies.
Okay.
And all that stuff, right? Which I've seen The Mummy, I've seen Dracula and all that jazz.
Oh, okay.
But he was like, how people are like, man, that guy had Steve Buscemi eyes or whatever, right? How people, reference, or Adam Sandler face. That guy's got so much. That may just be me, though. I've called people Adam Sandler face a couple times.
Okay.
Anyway, Or when we brought up the Mac DeMarco effect, which
Yep.
I should patent.
You really should
people
patent.
reference. It's so genius.
It's really good.
People reference all kinds of like modern things, right? And draw similes, and that's like their jokes. This guy was making simile jokes about Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi and a whole bunch of names that I didn't even know. And he was talking to like 5 people about this, right? And I knew that no one else knew what the hell he was talking about.
I bet that he's fun at a
Right?
party.
Oh my gosh, exactly, right? And anyway, and then he was like, see, I'm not like most of these film majors who are just like, oh, A24, you know, that's cinema. I consider myself a true student of film, you know? I still watch A24 films, but I watch everything, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that guy made me take a good look at myself, because what he sounds like to me is what I sound like to other people regularly. So, that's that.
I mean, that dude is gonna go on and get like a master's in film history.
Film history, yeah.
And then he's gonna be real happy with himself. But
I mean, I gotta commend him for his education, you know what I mean?
oh yeah,
Like,
I mean,
he knows what he's
dedication.
talking about. Like, that's mad dedication. I certainly appreciate that there are people like him out there. But also, I don't
the same time,
I don't want to meet up with him at a party. You know, I just don't. And I'm sorry. I feel bad for saying that, but yeah.
no. I just think it's funny because like my group of friends are all the people who like know too much about things, except it's like on like that level of knowing too much about things, except it's like world geopolitics.
Yeah,
And,
sometimes
like, the
I
most,
don't
like,
want to run into
asinine military related things from like the 1800s or whatnot.
Yeah, sometimes I don't even want to talk to your friends.
I don't want to talk to
I
them
love
either.
them.
Oh,
I love
they're great.
them. I love
They're
them
the
so
best.
much.
But sometimes they're just
But
too
yeah,
much.
you've got to be prepared to just
really
ask
do.
questions and not have answers when you're talking to them.
Yeah, I mean, so like if you're worried if you're worried about like being too pretentious for me, trust me. I've already gone through the ringer.
I
with
had
them.
PE. I had PE with Paul.
Oh no.
Like I got it. I got it. Yeah, there were times. There were definitely times where I was like, dude, because like I was talking to him about Delta House, which I don't know if I've ever told you about.
I was in chaos. I know what Delta House is.
Okay, yeah. Well, anyway, it was our, you know, fake fraternity, right? And he started getting into, so are y'all anarcho-communists? Anarcho-communists? And like, would you think, like, you remind me of the Bolsheviks, really? Like, that's the type of stuff you're going off of, which of course I'm butchering, you know, whatever he's actually saying with the few words I do know.
Yeah, but it's that's what he.
It's close enough to give you an idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, we just don't like people telling us what to do, man. Like, that's it. We just don't like authority, dude. Let's get back on topic. We haven't even said a word about
We
Under
have
the Skin
not.
as far as
And
like actually
we should really
the
get
movie.
into it. We've been talking about, or I opened this up with like, did you plan banter? Do you have banter? And then it's been 47 minutes of banter.
Oh, wow. So we've got a great podcast for y'all this
Great
week.
podcast. It's all about Under the
I
Skin.
think the banter is a great part.
Oh, I think
the
it's
banter
great.
is the best.
I mean, but how much of it is like a film podcast, and how much of it is like us like talking about things?
Well, at the same time, it's not like anything we've said is too far off topic.
Oh no, it's all related
we're still
to film.
talking
in some
about
way.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, let's get focused.
This is
and
enough.
Stop.
This is
yeah,
enough.
this is. We're getting off task.
This is your first time watching it. I've only seen it once. What were your first impressions?
Oh,
okay.
I feel like this movie has two very distinct halves.
I agree with that completely.
Like there's the first half wherever she's doing whatever she's doing, and at all times it's like she's in control of the situation, whatever the situation is, right, and anything that happens is because Scarlett Johansson wanted it to go that way, and it's working her way. And then she looks in a mirror, and then she has like a self-reflection moment, and then the rest of the movie is like,
I think the character development does happen. It's just the way
it's very, very slight.
As I was watching it the first time, I thought of it as like, you know how we talked about poetic documentaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
I felt that this was like a poetic sci-fi thriller.
Gotcha.
Side note, I mean?
Have you done any research into like what the story is about or what the book that the movie is about is?
Yeah, I watched maybe 5 videos and read 1 article or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I just looked up the Wikipedia page and I'm like, oh, okay.
But yeah, that's one thing that I do always enjoy. I do really like it when I have to look up the movie afterwards to figure out what I just saw. And maybe
well, there's a dichotomy to that because like
yeah, that's what I was about to bring up. You go for it.
Honestly, I was hoping that you hadn't seen it, that you hadn't looked through it, because there's like an interesting conversation that can happen between. There's a difference between like knowing what other people have said about something and what other people think something is about, rather than just trying to figure it out yourself and trying to figure out what you think about a film. Especially with something like this that doesn't really like give you any specific things of like, this is what I'm on about. Or it does, but like it doesn't
at the same time,
scream it as loud as it could.
So I guess what I'm saying, so first off, I think there's a dichotomy about making films that explain themselves and making films that don't.
Mm-hmm.
In that the general belief, I believe, is that, you shouldn't have to give an intro to your film. Your film should be, within itself, a closed box of what it is. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And at the same time, you can still say things within that, right? There's still room for interpretation in something that still speaks for itself and can be interpreted without any research, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it's cool when you have to look it up to figure out what you are watching, right? I really like that that's a lot of thoughtful, because then you are forced into the discussion. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, oh, well, I thought it brought this really cool thing up. And you're like, yeah, man, I thought so too. You know what I mean? That kind of like, oh, it brings up this kind of thing about politics or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's cooler when you are thrust into the, huge conversation that's happening on the internet and all that jazz.
Yeah,
right?
Because everybody has so many different ideas, and there's so many people there. It's almost like brute forcing like the ideas out of something. And
so
like a lot of times like someone will see something and like that's not even the point of, or like that's not what the creator had intended, but that's just sort of there.
Right. So what's cool about this movie is that And one of the articles I read, videos I watched, was saying that, like, this movie, I've seen so many different interpretations of it. It can be used for so many different things. So one person I saw was commenting about how what this movie really is it's about body positivity, right? You know what I mean? And
Okay.
I thought that was a really cool interpretation, and we can get into, whether or not we think it's about body positivity. But yeah, there's totally not one right answer, and this movie can easily be used as a discussion point for so many different, issues. I think that most of those issues fall under, the umbrella issue of feminism, right? And or gender identity, as it were.
Or just like very like personal issues
and sexual freedom,
yes.
all of that, right? Which I think all kind of fall into the box.
They're in the they're in the same like Venn diagram, I guess.
Yeah, like I think there's I don't know what the umbrella term is, but there's probably an umbrella term that will, encapsulate all those. And then also I do think it discusses, the human experience as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as like agency and what should a person do, like, what does freedom really mean, I guess, kind of, that was another interpretation I saw. And so, yeah, I think it's really cool that even when you do look this film up, there isn't a right and wrong answer. Every article or video you watch about this film all says,
something different,
and they all kind of agree that, like, there are so many things that you could use this movie to discuss and think about. But,
because like my personal theory about what this movie about, like, is only based off of like a certain like sort of things that happen, and then there's just other things in the movie that like I just have to like throw up my arms up, and I'm just like, I don't know how this fits into whatever I got out of it. That's what I got out of it.
The second
I don't know what those
half
other things
really throws you for a loop. The second half really just like it completely changes what you're thinking about, I think. Because
yes and no.
The first half I felt like, it was pretty obviously about, the dynamic between women and men, and like kind of flipping the script of what if rather than men being sexual predators, it was a woman, right? And what does that look like, and what does that mean, right? And of course, we're doing that in the context of like an alien film,
Uh-huh.
Or a robot. I don't.
Which I think is really funny that like for the majority of this podcast, you've been like bringing up that Alien is like an allegory for rape, and then we watch this movie.
I mean, we can watch Alien too.
Well, I feel like there's like a lot of like you saying that specifically over like the run of this podcast. I feel like relates to what at least I got out of this film.
I wonder if the filmmaker, who I don't know the filmmaker's name, I believe it was a man, which I was somewhat surprised
no. All the people, even the person who wrote the book, the writer, the director, cinematographer, pretty much all of the big people were all men. The screenplay person, which I found was really interesting considering the content of the movie, because it seems like a very like film focused on like issues revolving around women, but like there's also this thing that I've seen lately of how like rape isn't necessarily a women's issue, it's more of a men's issue, because 99% of the time, like, I read this in my sociology class. Like, the statistic is 99%. I don't know where they got it from, but I read it in my sociology class like a couple days ago. That like 99% of the time it's men raping women. So if it's men raping women, how is it a women's issue? Like, is it the women's issue for existing, or is it the men? Is it like a men's problem that they are raping women, or like is it?
Well, typically, I think we're talking about like how it's the role of the oppressed to bring up the problems of the oppressor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But underlying, it is the oppressor's problem.
So, for example, let's pivot this, right? Would you say that police violence is
I was gonna say that, yeah.
You know, a police issue rather than a African American issue?
100%. I would say that police violence is an issue with racism and is an issue with power more than it is an issue with black people being black.
So, I guess what I'm saying, and we agree, really, we're just thinking about it in two different ways, is what's going on.
Yeah.
In no way am I saying that, you know, it's the victim's fault and it's the victim's problem. But I don't think a police officer can honestly evaluate themselves in that whole context. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if we can rely on the oppressor, as it were, to evaluate themselves and bring up the issue in their own thing. So I think it is an issue of, you know, African Americans. You know what I mean? I do think it is an African American issue.
It's an issue for them to bring up. It's not their. It is a problem with them, but like in these scenarios, they're not like the problem here.
Right. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I know. I agree with you. We're agreeing.
Right,
I'm just trying to get that point across.
Cool. I just also want to make sure that your comments don't make it sound like I'm saying that it's black people's fault.
No.
You know what I mean? We're agreeing, we just have different language and have different, you know, thoughts about change, I guess, maybe?
Sure.
And voice. Yeah. We'll call it that. Anyway, so yeah, I do think it is interesting that a man is directing and a man, I believe, is writing, and all of that that stuff. I'm gonna try not to say jazz one more time. And then on top of that, that does bring up an interesting thing I'm thinking about, right? Is that I don't think I've seen Scarlett Johansson naked in any other film.
Yeah, no, that was one of the things that like sort of surprised me too.
Right. And I do think it is essential to the film.
Oh, yeah.
And the nudity I thought was very tastefully done. It didn't seem to be too much, in my opinion, especially because the part where she's truly naked, I believe, is pretty poorly lit. Like, not
well, okay.
Bad,
here's one thing.
But, you know,
I feel like calling nudity tasteful seems a bit like weird to me. I would say that it like services the plot and services like it's not a function of like, oh, well, let's have Scarlett Johansson nude because Scarlett Johansson is hot and we want to see her naked. It's more of Scarlett Johansson, well, the character in the film being naked services the overall idea that we're trying to present and is not a thing with like
I think the best word is to say that the nudity was not excessive.
Sure.
I think that's the best way to say it. But yeah, what were your thoughts about your interpretations and, you know, thoughts about it?
I was planning to get to it, but we just sort of went off track a little bit. So the original thought for my idea goes back to this one episode of the Boondocks, which I think is very funny.
Oh my gosh.
It's I believe in I believe it's in season 3. I might be wrong.
I only saw the pilot episode of that show.
Okay. Well, the basic premise of the episode is there's this one girl, and she's just been burned by so many guys who are abusive to her and who are just treat her terribly that she just assumes that all guys are terrible, and that she goes on and tries to get revenge for all the guys that have wronged her, because she just, from all the experiences that she has had with men, she just assumes that all men are evil and all men just want her for her body and not for herself, right? Yeah. And so she goes on, and then like any date that she goes on with somebody, she kills them. Okay. Which I found very similar to the first half of the film. And
so you think this is like women vengeance, right? And then when they go out into the world and realize that it's sort of a, I mean, I don't want to say not all men, but, you know, it's something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
You know, she's introduced to,
like, a man who, like,
good people.
Who, like, that isn't their prime directive, I guess. Like, that's not what they, like, constantly think about.
Which
because,
also,
like,
part of this film that's really cool is the deformed man, right?
Yes.
And
yeah, because that's where I would say the middle break is. Like, whenever we're talking about the two halves of the film, that's where it is.
I'd say he's smack dab in the middle as far as... because before then, she starts to, like, see humans, and she starts to, like, understand that they're feeling emotions that she will not be able to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she feels guilty for killing him because he wasn't, you know, the same way the first two guys were. He wasn't so sexually focused. He was actually, you know, emotionally available and, you know...
Yeah, and if anything, she took advantage of him.
Right. And so
which is the turning point. And then, so then from then on, she, like, just sort of, like, she sort of just, like, becomes broken, I guess. And then you would find this really funny. So the person who, like, finds her on the bus and helps her.
Yeah.
The second I saw that person, I'm like, oh, that's Gallagher. That dude looks like Gallagher. That dude dresses like Gallagher. Which then made the sex scene very weird, because I'm like, oh, that's Gallagher. Oh, that's Gallagher.
I'm glad I didn't think that.
Yeah. 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 But
anyway, yeah, I think it's... Sorry, you go first.
The other thing that the connection that I made is that, like, no matter what, she's going to be, like, haunted by, because following my train of logic of where she had been harmed by people in the past, or, like, abused by people in the past, she, towards the latter half of the movie, the motorcycle people, the person on the motorcycle, and then there's multiple, start chasing her, right? And they try to, like, find her, right? And so she's trying to, like, escape them, and she's, like, clearly haunted by her actions or something.
Yeah.
And so, like, no matter what, she can't really, like, escape those things, which I then feel like culminates pretty well in the part of where the logger man tries to rape her, because, like, Well, yes, all men are not like that, as shown in by the deformed person and by Gallagher.
Oh God!
I know.
Please don't refer to him as Gallagher.
I'll stop.
Let's go with Busman.
Sure, Busman. Like, it still ends with there's people like that. Like, so even though, like, good people are there, there's still bad people, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very interesting film, and as you've continually said, there's a lot of things that you can draw from this.
I think the coolest part is that we have this really strong character arc of we have, as far as factually what the story is, a sort of robot alien comes down to Earth.
This isn't like said at all. This is stuff by this now. This is stuff that like we've looked up because none of this is like said in the movie because
Roberto,
most of the movie has no dialogue.
Roberto, I challenge you to find a way to interpret this film as not a robot alien film. I believe it even
so these
says
are the parts in
which
these are the parts in which I threw up my hands and just went like, it's like just showing that somehow.
Roberto,
it is the visual
when she
representation
gets burned
of this.
alive.
Yes.
She does not have a human inner body structure. She is obviously a robot or alien, one of the two.
You could show it as like you could do it as like the like emotions inside of her or like how.
Oh my god.
What?
Roberto, it's a robot alien film.
Okay, that is what the source material is, yes, but you can see it in other ways.
You can interpret it to be an allegory, but the factual story is about a robot alien who seduces men and then sort of feeds off them or whatever she does to them.
Yeah, but like
cool. It's an allegory for sure. But
yeah,
the
but
facts,
the robot,
like, that'd be
the
like
robot
saying
alien
Cain
thing
and
from the
Abel.
beginning could be an allegory for something else. So why not just skip it? And like,
okay,
whatever. This is
dude,
semantics.
what
this
you're
is semantics.
saying is like, honestly, Cain and Abel is not about Cain and Abel. It's about brothers, you know. And then I'd be
I haven't
well,
read the Bible.
factually, it is about Cain and Abel, and you're like, no, it's about brotherhood.
I haven't read the Bible, so I don't know.
Okay, Cain kills Abel, or Abel. Yeah, I think Cain kills Abel. I'm not sure. I forgot that story.
They're brothers, and
But
one of them killed the other.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so it's about
Or
brothers,
one of them,
right?
Yeah, one of them steals the other's birth right away. And so
Okay.
anyway,
This is semantics.
yeah. So this robot alien,
Sure.
it begins by seducing men and, you know, killing them in one way or another, whether that's to feed off them or turn them into fuel for whatever. She kills them, right?
Again, this is
and
not in
those
the
scenes
story
are
at all.
So cool.
This is not in the film at all.
Roberto,
No, they're very
Roberto,
cool. It doesn't say that though. None of what you have said is in the movie besides of like what the visuals are.
Roberto, I'm like up to here, bud.
Okay.
It is in the movie. It is explicitly stated.
No, it's not explicitly stated. I just watched it.
Do you agree that those men die?
Yes. Well,
Shh. Oh my gosh, Roberto.
the one deformed person gets away. He doesn't die. He's escaped. And then the motorcycle person captures him again. But like if this movie is as what you've continually said, if this movie can be interpreted in a ton of different ways, then I am free to interpret it as not a sci-fi alien movie.
Roberto, I would like to discuss the actual plot rather than the allegorical meanings behind the film.
Okay.
So the actual plot is that she is a robot / alien / something that is not human.
Mm-hmm.
She walks around Earth, and what's also cool about it is I read that like intentionally they wanted it to be, you know, they wanted it to be hard for you to understand the people who are speaking, right?
Oh, yeah, so they said in Scotland.
Right, and then also it kind of puts you in an empathetic position with her, right?
Yeah.
And because she doesn't understand them either, not as far as like verbally she doesn't understand them, but like she doesn't understand humans.
Yeah.
So then she brings them back to this place where she kills them, and then eventually she grows a heart and realizes that she's killing these humans, and whether that's from a perspective of envy that she wants to be a human, or whether that's from a place of guilt that she's been killing like people, or any other motivation is up for debate. But she does change her mind because she understands humans more. So she runs away and decides to stop, luring men back to her little kill cabinet, black room. And then she meets a man who's really, really nice. And, she continues her foray into, the human experience and all of that jazz, right? But then she realizes that she can never be a human because she's so different from them in many ways, including her anatomy. And she also likely cannot feel feelings, which is not, fully explicitly stated, but can be pretty easily inferred that she doesn't have the same feelings that humans do. So she decides to run off and try and be completely alone, and then she is finally confronted by the logger who attempts to rape her, and then she gets burned and goes fully into her natural form, right? And what I think that's so cool about this movie is that there's not that kind of dialogue. Like, I don't think she ever says the words, "I feel." There's actually a very little amount of dialogue in the film overall. It's not like Dunkirk level no dialogue, but it's still very low
I would say
dialogue.
It's pretty close to that.
And so anyway, I think what's so cool is that we do have a real character of development, and whether you believe that she wants to be a human, or whether you believe she pities humans, or whatever, you still see that, that full character development, and it's done in a way where you can interpret in what way she's developing, right? And so I was just blown away that this film is so poetically done and not an explicitly stated film, yet it still functions and works on its regular sci-fi thriller basis. You know what I mean? You still understand that she's a robot alien of some kind. You still understand that she's killing people. And then you still understand she has a change of heart of some kind. But the ways they do it are really, really cool, I think, and really, I don't know, not, they make you think, they make you do the thinking rather than telling.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I really like this movie. And then, of course, we could discuss for 5 days about, the millions of allegorical ways to interpret this film. Because obviously it does have allegorical meanings of some kind. It's just which way you want to interpret it,
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've been trying to like start to write things, but all the things that I try to write on, I don't know how I can start, because they're all like really, really big ideas that are like, I don't know how to like transfer these ideas into a story that could be conveyed like on paper. Like, they're just really like high concept ideas, or like ideas that I don't know that like I would have like the right to speak on, I guess. Sort of like in the same way that like this movie made pretty much like all of the top executive decisions of the movie, so like director, producer, writer, screenwriter, and then the original book, like are all by men speaking about like rape or whatever you want to. Oh, they're all like sort of drawn on feminine issues.
Right.
That's something that I found like sort of interesting. Like, oh, maybe this is possible. Maybe I can actually like do this, right? Or like start writing about certain things like this. So I like that a lot. That sort of gave me a lot of I don't know, inspiration to like
go for it.
Write
something.
I mean,
man.
I just really need to start. I'm taking a screenwriting class next semester, so hopefully that'll start.
I think
me.
I think the other thing, and this is something that I've been working on for the boat script, as it were, payroll. It's when you're writing something that has really any form of, plot, right? And any form of like development, it's really helpful to map it out in whatever way. And I know some writers don't do this, so it's not like a set in stone thing, but like as much as you should start, you also got to start in the right way. If you just open a script document and start chopping away, you might end up, wrecking yourself. So check yourself first.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd say this was a great podcast. Let's do the
I
outro.
think this is
gotta
like
go to
probably
dinner.
one of our best.
Yeah, I gotta go to dinner, bud.
Okay. There's a couple of like funny things that I noticed. Do you want me to just roll through them real quick?
If you can make them quick, I'm late.
Yeah. There's a ton of scenes where she's in crowds of people. This is one of the films that gave me COVID anxiety of like, nope, they shouldn't be that close together. Nope. In the club, the song is Darude Sandstorm, which I found insanely hilarious, that all these people are just getting it down to Darude.
Yeah.
I
also do want to bring up that I was floored by the cinematography the whole time.
Oh,
it
100%.
was just incredible.
Because there's no dialogue, cinematography and sound design especially are very, very important. Like, it just
all
looks
those, like,
and sounds
alien-y
great.
sounds that they do for the sound design, fantastic.
Or, like, the music, great.
Yeah.
There is a restaurant called Filling Station Restaurant and Bar, which I found perfect. Like, it's a restaurant that's called the Filling Station. Like,
Yeah.
that's great. And then outside of the Filling Station, there is an MF Doom poster, which I found very funny.
Yeah. Also, that scene where she tries to eat cake, that's so cool.
Oh yeah, like she just can't eat cake because she just like she's okay. Everybody walks with such like a swagger. It's really, really weird. Like, especially when they're in like the dark room, like all the men just sort of like walk with like a weird like swagger to them, and it feels like a video game NPC. Like, like all those videos of like people walking in Skyrim and they just walk like a certain way, and they just like hold themselves a certain way. It feels like that. Yeah, that's all of the weird things that I noticed.
All right. Well, hopefully next week we'll be able to discuss the one-take films.
Hopefully, yeah.
And
if not, then we'll figure
pick
something out.
Something at random. All right. See y'all next week.
See ya.